1.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the airport review panel meeting for July 7th. This will probably be a fairly short one, but a couple things to catch up on and just hear from different people as to what they've got going on. So a couple things that I'll just mention of my own. I got a letter back from the FAA. I had written a letter to the FAA when they responded to John's letter about, all the issues with the airport. And they came back with a very sort of predictable letter discounting every point he made. And it got me kind of irritated. So I wrote a letter back to the person who responded to John. And I just sort of went through point by point and said, how can you seriously say that's the growth rate? How can you seriously say these are not segmented? And just, how can you say it's a safety issue when you've gone 6 years or whatever and not touched any of the trees, and all of a sudden now you've got to take out acres of trees? And all they did was come back with like 2 sentences. They said, we're following the FAA approved growth rate and we're using the NEPA procedures. Thank you for your concerns. So that was all the response we got. So in interacting with Kyle Melander, I was trying to sort of make a case to get Senator Toomey and Brian Fitzpatrick into the FAA to make a direct lobbying effort or appeal to them. And Kyle's suggestion was to hold off until the engineers have come back with their assessment and returned it to the FAA. That's probably the better time to go in when we know what they've said, we know what the arguments are, and we're trying to influence the FAA before they issue their FONSI. So that seemed to me like a pretty good suggestion. And I just said, great, we'll lay low till that report's in. And then he was going to approach Toomey's office to see how they would feel about trying to do something like that. We'll see. Okay, so then I got an email from the Delaware River Greenway Partnership, just talking about them having a meeting coming up, and they're going to have another one at the end of July. They have a New Jersey DEP person on their board of trustees or on their supervisors list or whatever for that group. And so she said, please send a letter explaining the points you want to make. We have contacts with the DEP on both sides of the river, and we can make that known. Their area of concern is a little too far north it doesn't cover the airport grounds, but nevertheless, they are willing to try and be an advocate to help the cause. So, they may be able to reach out to residents who are willing to do things, but they can also reach out to these DEP people and make the case. So I will send her a letter just summarizing the various points we've made over and over, but let them put it in their hands to try to disseminate that information. So let's see. Joe Menard told me he's been working on a white paper of his analysis of the funds that they will be taking in based on concessions and parking fees and that kind of thing. And so he thinks he's going to be able to make a case for what growth, what capacity they've got to be flying to be able to break even. And he's thinking he'll have this done in July to pass out to this group. And, we'll see where to go with it from there. But he thinks he's making progress on that. And we'll have some sort of analysis that says if they don't have at least this kind of capacity of air traffic or this level of air traffic, then they're not going to be able to break even with the costs that they're going to have. And I have not heard from Peter about the Buttigieg meeting as of a week ago. Nothing had been organized through Menendez's office to completion. And the one other thing, which Judy may bring this was Judy's point, but I'll bring it up because it possibly affects the supervisors, and that is requesting from the airport itself a description of their schedule and projects that they anticipate to be going through, because there's almost no insight as to what they're actually doing or planning for when. The only time we find out anything is when we hear through some sort of channel that a permit has been requested. There's no, it's just amazing that they don't have some sort of website or publication saying, here's our plan, these are the series of projects we're going to do, this is the order we need to do them in, here are the permits we have to do to get to that point. I can't imagine they would actually respond to a question like this, given how their lack of transparency has been evident, from the get-go. So, but maybe it doesn't hurt to ask, and I don't know if it's better for a government agency to make the request like our township. And it's just, it's not a hostile letter. It's just saying, can you tell us what your schedule is, your list of projects, and what your, the permits are you're applying for? Now, they already know that the politicians on this side of the river are against their project. So it's, they're probably going to be reluctant to release anything and just say, oh, go for an Oprah request. And I think that's about all I've got. We'll see what Joe comes up with his white paper. So I open the floor to anybody else who's got comments or observations of things going on. Brendan, you got any?
No, sir.
Points? Okay. Rob?
I have some things to say, but I'll sit back first.
Yeah. Okay. Rob, you got anything to add?
New?
Nothing new? Okay. John?
I think you should, the board can, the airport review panel can file an open records request of New Jersey, and they do have to respond. I mean, I get regular right to know requests, so they want every email, text, full background. I mean, there's no reason why we can't ask for that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably won't delay that long as it's narrowly focused on exactly what you're looking for and timelines. They do have to respond. Pennsylvania, there's a 30-day wait that they can put on it, but I don't think we're in trouble with that. We could easily do that now. I don't know the details of the New Jersey Open Records Act, but I think it's worth the panel requesting that, or any citizen could request it. It's the same as if the township did.
Okay. All right. Okay, and I'll let Judy explain more what she was looking for. So, Holly, do you have anything?
No, I've been trying to track. So I've noticed a change in airport activity as far as traffic patterns, which is interesting. But I'm just trying to get some additional information from some of our colleagues at other airports to see if there's any other approaches we could take. But I don't have anything else to add at the moment.
Okay.
Well, how would they be switched up? I mean, is there any noticeable? Can you visibly see it? A change in how?
Yeah, actually, I can, and well, first off, I know they're flying over our house. I swear, every time we do something, it's like, oh, she's at it again. Let's change the planes that fly over our house now. I'm sure that's not the case, but one can't get paranoid after a while. I have noticed some of the approaches are rather interesting in how far out they go and the different directions they take it. I have to go back on, I forget what it's called, if it's Fly Track, or there's a thing that shows how they map the approach. And I want to see, because a lot of them appear to be coming, how we could say, like up through Marsville and then banking over and turning. And I don't know where they're turning to approach on 624, because I know that's exactly how they're going in. But they're kind of like coming in sideways, which normally they come like from Newtown, which is, the beacon is over by the Methodist Church on the hill. So that's usually the tracking point they come from. And it doesn't appear that if they're using that as the tracking, they're taking some of the side route. And it's not consistent, but it's definitely a different approach. I'm not quite sure what's causing that.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Rob has me hooked on FlightAware 24. You made that recommendation several years ago.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Radar.
it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Flight Radar 24 app is pretty interesting.
Thanks.
Hey, Holly, if it was a one-off, then that could be anything. As a routine course, it's harder to explain because those arrivals and departure procedures is kind of a big deal to change them. So I know there's a giant effort to redo the entire Northeast, but to my knowledge, that hasn't happened yet. So I don't know systemically how to explain it.
Maybe it's just a semi-consistent fluke.
Yeah, I mean, well, now and then it could be anything. So that's not even a big deal. But if it's something regular, then I'm at a loss how to explain it. And
If I find a pattern, I'll let you know, because
Yeah,
I
screenshot it
don't
and
know
shoot it
right
to
now,
me.
but it just seems a little wonky.
are you using that app too?
I'm getting back on it. Yeah, I had to dump all my equipment. I've got personal equipment now, so I have to reset everything on my own computer. I retired last week, so.
Oh, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So all my stuff that my company gave me, I had to send back. So it's like I've got to reinvent the wheel and create my own security systems, which I haven't had to worry about for 26 and a half years. So it's taking me some time.
Well, send me a couple screenshots if you notice it. Also, make sure there's no like convective activity in the area, because if they're dodging thunderstorms,
Okay.
then that explains it. But
Okay, I'll send it to you.
yeah, if there's no thunderstorms, just send me a couple of pictures, and then I could do a relook at their approaches over there, but I doubt they've changed because that's a bigger deal. But I'll double check.
Okay, thanks, Rob.
Sure.
Okay, Judy?
Okay, now I got a couple questions based on what I heard people say. Rob, who is putting forth or wanting to put forth the giant effort to redo the entire Northeast?
That goes way back. That goes back to when I was in Washington and even did some work at MITRE. That's been a long time coming, how to reflow the entire Northeast. I don't know if the COVID slowed it all down, or who knows. Such a Herculean effort is, nothing that happens overnight. But also, that's all kind of upper level stuff. So, a departure procedure, will be worked into that. But a lot of it has to do with how to funnel all the arrivals into, all the airports in the Northeast. So it's, they have to. It's tight airspace up there with all the airplanes, at the pre-COVID levels. So I don't think, I think it's probably on the FAA website though, the overall umbrella effort though, I would think. I haven't looked lately, but it's got to be there.
So I keep hearing that Biden is pushing every organization to evaluate all decisions based on climate change. And so I don't know if the FAA is doing this now or going to do that. Do you think there's any chance if the FAA did look at the entire Northeast that they would decide that the demand is not as needed for Trenton as it was pre-COVID and pre-climate change consideration?
It sounds unlikely to me.
Okay, I guess that's a pretty big
remember,
question.
Yeah, I don't see them closing an airport due to that.
Okay, no, I wouldn't. And then closing wasn't really what I was thinking. It was more, do they really need to be diverting passenger jets and, potentially having half empty planes out of 3 close airports?
Well, that would be free market economy decisions. If the airlines were losing money, they wouldn't be there.
Okay. All right. John, your comment about the records request, the Oprah system in New Jersey they're supposed to get back within 7 days. They had a reprieve because of COVID, and I don't know if the governor is still giving them a reprieve, but they filed dozens of them. The majority of them come back, no such information, because you have to use very specific language. If you don't use exactly the right language, they'll say no, because that requires work. And they won't help you identify what the documents are called. So what I was saying to Rich was I thought this is more of an overall, I felt like it's time to reach out again to say everything the airport does impacts Pennsylvania. And we just have to sit here and wait to hear about it after the fact, after they've gotten the approvals, after they've got the planning. So it'd be nice, and they have had put out schedules. Of course, their master plan has all sorts of schedules, but it's years off. So I thought it was more of a, let's sit down and talk about what are you really planning on doing? So if there's something, you know, Pennsylvania needs to do to prepare for it, that they know what's coming at them. So, and we can sit down and make a list of what kind of information would we like to know. I mean, what you just never hear about it until it's completely approved, funded, and they're getting ready to put shovels in the ground. So I also think, you know, lawyers and other people will ask, well, did you ever reach out to the airport? And I guess I want to be able to say, yes, we you know, we tried once. I know that, I guess it was Hughes, returned the letter. But to show that we are actively trying to engage them. We may get something from it. We may learn something from it, and at least but it also shows that, you know, as a whole, we're at least attempting to engage. So, do you see an issue with the panel or the supervisors attempting to reach out again?
No. I don't anticipate any issues on that, no.
All right, I guess
Well,
to me, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we can initiate a letter, run it by John. It's going to be fact asking, right? It's not asking for anything, for them to do anything. It's not going to be confrontation. It's going to, it'll just be a matter of, can you please clarify these questions? And we'll see if they refuse, then you'll have the evidence that you did try and they just refused to talk to us.
I mean, and then it's somewhat timely because they did put out the EA and say, okay, this had been a long time coming and you have all these other projects surrounding that. You know, where do they all stand in the queue? And what do you think the true timing is of this EA? That would be helpful to know. And see if they have any insight into how long. I mean, they may say it's going to take a year. I don't know. May take 3 months, but it'd be interesting to see if they would at least give us that information. I don't know if they'll tell us what they're trying to permit or not.
Well, do you think they'll know? Doesn't it depend on what the FAA does?
Well, I'm not sure do you know that they've put out their bids for the 125,000 square foot terminal already? Did I share that with you?
No, I didn't know that.
Okay. Daria and Long, my neighbor, knows it because they have a friend in the construction industry in New Jersey. And some point, I think relatively recently, maybe the last month, maybe 2, they've received the bid requests for 125,000 square foot terminal. So I don't know if they're just trying to get their numbers to see where it is, but they're not waiting. They're not waiting to hear what, you know, whether or not they're going to get a Fonzie.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah, and unfortunately, we're kind of blind on the bids too. You'd think we'd know when the bids were going out, but I don't even see that. I've tried to get. There's probably a way if I dig a little deeper to get that information because they say they make it public, but I just hadn't seen it. I also heard through their son, who's kind of I guess a buff. Oh, no, somebody else who reads a lot of industry news, that they've reached out to 3 airlines, Delta, Breeze, which I think is a brand new airline, and I don't know what the third one is, as they said they would do through Volair, the consultant. So I don't know in that period of time what that's been. It's probably the last 5 or 6 months. So I have heard, I read in last month's Mercer County minutes that they got bids to finish the D2G connector, which is interesting because I had been told that they were working on it and it was going to be finished by the end of May. So maybe that data was wrong, but they said that they rejected all 3 bids to complete that connector, the D2G, it's the parallel taxiway, because they were too expensive. So that was interesting.
Yeah, I thought they were already digging that.
I thought they were too. But then
Okay.
it said, and I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell which of these projects they're talking about, but I'm pretty sure that's, I mean, I don't know another project called that.
Mhm.
And they did say that that was, I think, in the end of May. What is it? No, maybe the beginning of June. And then the last one in the end of June, they were just basically accepting, I guess it must be on a timely basis that the FAA just gives them 10% of the project. So they gave them, 10% of that D to G project and 10% of the rehab of the D and G taxiways, each for about $300,000, which is about a tenth of the money they're going to give them overall. So, they give them $3 million for each of the connectors on the one parallel taxiway. So, that's the kind of dollars that the FAA is putting towards one parallel taxiway. So,
Okay.
let me, so that, yeah, I was just surprised about the bid. I was very, very surprised that, as far as I know, nobody got a response to multiple requests to extend the public comment period for the draft terminal. Do you ever know whether or not Menendez's group actually put in a request,
I do not know.
Rich?
No,
Okay.
Peter was the only one in direct contact with them.
Yeah, they didn't respond to anybody. Not even to say that they had received, to a certain extent, if this is, I think they're feeling the pressure that they are, because I had heard that they probably would extend it and then they wouldn't even respond to the requests.
Okay.
So I don't know, maybe they're just keeping their head down and trying to plow ahead.
Mhm.
And maybe that's a good thing if they think that we're starting to come up with some ammunition, and they didn't want to give us more time to continue to peruse, look through the EA and find inconsistencies, of which there's plenty. I just don't know how to interpret that.
Mhm. Well, I think you've got
I
them
have
on.
Holly, go ahead.
I think you've got them on edge.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, guys, I was just Googling bids for Trenton Airport. The only thing I can see is an advertising concession for Trenton Mercer Airport. So how much
So I don't,
money would they generate in revenue from advertising? So that was due back in
Right.
March. It's pretty,
right, and those guys have a website up where they talk about the growth that, those growth numbers do not equal the growth numbers in the EA. But how can you, just because they're a marketing firm and they're trying to market to advertisers at the airport, and I was, wanted to reach out to them, it's on the to-do list, to say, what's the basis for those growth numbers that you're projecting of enplanements coming through there?
well, Joe's on that case now, right? I would assume.
Well, it's more that there's a company in there advertising growth, right, that doesn't equal the growth that the airport itself is claiming in their EAs.
Mhm.
So just another inconsistency. Holly, did you decide to sign the letter from Darlene Yapley?
Yeah, I have to do it yet. I was kind of indisposed today, so I'll get it out
Okay,
tomorrow.
sure. So I know TTS did it. I just always try to support, I'm sure you do too.
I pass it on to a couple other airport groups too, and they've signed on to it
Oh,
as
that's
well.
great. Oh, that's wonderful. She'll be, that's great. Because she was actually calling me at like 10 of 12 while we were trying to get the public comments in, helping me with some of the noise information to put in the public comments, because she's an expert in noise. So she reaches out, and helps. The traffic patterns. I don't know if this is new, but it seems to me they're increasing, whether you're going up in altitude until they hit about the river, and then they're flattening out at about 2,000 feet, and then they're going out to about Polo Run, and then they're increasing altitude to about 7,000. It seemed to be somewhat of a consistent, not that I watched 20 of them, and I seem to notice that, and I see that as a change. I thought that they constantly increased in altitude and didn't have that flattening, which tends to be quieter. Has anybody else noticed that?
That's not a change. That's a normal noise abatement departure profile.
This is Rob speaking.
Yeah. Yeah, they,
Okay,
when you depart, you climb to an altitude, then you accelerate, you clean up your flaps, and then once you're clean, you climb out, you accelerate and climb out then. So that leveling off is part of the acceleration to clean up, get the flaps up.
okay, so you didn't, I mean, I was gone for a long time, so maybe I just, maybe it was always like that.
Now,
But,
yeah,
you
it was
don't-
always, it's always been like that.
Okay, it just
Now
seems a little
now
higher and slightly
that
quieter.
profile is different in the US than in the rest of the world. The noise abatement profile, all over Europe, you climb to 3,000 feet before you accelerate. In the US, it's 1,000 normally. So, but you're not,
1,000? Okay,
yeah, you're not going to change that. That's big FAA. So, and that's everywhere. And if you can change it, good luck, but I don't see that happening.
okay. All right. That's, I think that's all I have. I mean, other than, like I said, the ongoing frustration of just being so blind to everything that's happening and just always having to be reacting to something at the last minute. So,
Well, Judy, we can just exchange emails or talk about what would be in this letter or what we're requesting. And I'm happy to put something together and send it over to them.
okay. I mean, I'm sure, Holly, I guess you've probably thought about this many times over the years because I know, how frustrating it is. Have you ever directly tried to reach out to them to get an update on what their plans are?
They won't tell you.
Okay.
They're under no obligation to tell you what they're doing. I think the case of them, if they are indeed getting bids, I think they're counting on a Fonzie, which is 99% of that's what happens if a Fonzie's just issued. So they're not going to wait. And then they may let the public know, but they're not under any legal course of action that they have to let us know what they're up to. And I mean, we've tried before, but they're not going to tell you because you're JQ public and you don't need to know and they don't want to tell you. I mean, I don't mean to sound so glib. It's just, that's how they are.
It's interesting. They have to get a waiver to be able to build on the property. They are building on prohibited land for the Delaware Raritan Canal Commission. It's in a tributary, and you cannot build there unless you get a waiver. And there's only very specific waivers that they can get. So from notes in the EA, it looked like they're going to try to go for a public needs waiver. But I haven't seen that they've done it yet. I'm trying to stay on top of that. Is there any chance that any of you are involved in anything with Delaware Raritan Canal Commission or anything else similar to this, where somebody's trying to claim public need when it's really operational and not a compelling public need? They say for safety or public health.
I'm certainly not.
Okay, Rob, I've heard them say, for this EA, that because let me just grab some approximate numbers. Each passenger in the terminal gets 3.7 square feet now, but the FAA wants them to be 8.4 square feet per passenger. And so that they're cramming them in there. I don't know if that's considered unsafe or just inconvenient, but that's, I'm concerned that that's how they're going to try to couch this, that it's safety because people are tight. I mean, I don't know why you can't just say, well, then string out the flights, don't have so many flights, string them out throughout the day.
Well, that's the obvious answer they're avoiding. No, I mean, of course, it's not safe to jam that many people into that space, but they're not going to do less flights, so that's why they're saying, "Oh, we're forced to do an expansion." I mean, that is the crux of the matter, right? They're giving you an excuse, but only giving you the course of action they want to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And they've thrown the safety flag before, which a lot of times I say is BS, the crowded terminal, yeah, you could, I think there is an argument that that's not safe, but they're not gonna do less flights like you suggested. And that would be good, but they're not doing that, so.
What's the noun you said? Do a what? A slice?
What?
You used a word I didn't recognize.
I don't know.
He said they're not
Okay, I
gonna,
see.
he just said they're not gonna reduce the flights.
Oh, reduce the flights. I'm sorry. I thought he said do a slice. Okay. I thought maybe it was a term. Okay, reduce the flights. No, it doesn't have to reduce the flights, but they can always spread them out throughout the day. It doesn't have to all be within the same hour.
Sure, according to us.
Well, these are the kind of things when you're trying to, I would think, when they're trying to say compelling public need and there's no other way around it, well, you'd say, well, there are ways around it, or we try to offer up ways around it. Because
so
they did
I
say
mean, if you went and said, hey, let's spread these flights out, their counter argument's going to be is airline schedules have to max fly the airplanes in a 24-hour period. They can't have the downtime because it was profitability. The airplane doesn't make money sitting on the ground. They've got other cities to fly to that day, so they can't, have these long sit times in Trenton. And oh, by the way, don't forget that they're connecting passengers there. So they want those airplanes to show up at the same time. They want the crowded terminal. That's part of a hub and spoke operation. So you can connect through Trenton when you buy your Frontier ticket. So,
yeah, good point. But none of that I see, and this is what I'm going to try to argue to the commission, is that none of that falls under safety or public health.
Yeah, well,
That's
great. Yeah, that's a good point.
It falls under operations and profitability of a company, of a corporation.
Mhm.
So, all right, but that's it's interesting. Yeah, it's always good to hear what the argument's going to be on their side.
Yeah, you got to be prepped for that.
Okay. All right, thanks. All right. Well, I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, well, I'm willing to put the letter out so I can interact with you on the request. I expect they'll just flip us off like they have on everything else, but we can try. And I will send the letter to the New Jersey, whatever it was, the Delaware River Group. Was willing to do that. So I'll put that out to them. And in the meantime, we'll see what Joe has from the budget and if Peter gets anywhere with his attempt to get the Buttigieg meeting. But that also,
I'll tell you,
go ahead.
Sorry, the Markine letter. Because this is certainly not a secret. TTS was given the name of the licensed site remediation professional they'll use to come up with the plan to remediate all the contamination around the new terminal site. And we were given the name from the DEP and reached out to him to say, how are you going to develop this plan? Not what is the plan, just we didn't even get a chance to be specific to say, what are your boundaries? What are you looking at? How long are you going to take you to do your plan? That's the kind of general questions we were asked. And we get a letter from the lawyer at the airport saying, basically, don't talk to him. We control everything he says. We control any messaging. And it's our choice to what we share with the public. So with a county-owned airport. So probably they're within their prerogative to do that, to control their consultants. But we're going to let it be known that just simple questions from the public gets a letter from the lawyer, not even a message from the airport itself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask questions, citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be the next information to the media.
Well, if you guys have, when I sent a letter to this Delaware River Group, I can put in the TTS website. If you have other social media information sources that you want to broadcast more widely, let me know, because we can put that into that letter.
Okay, good.
Because it sounds like
All right.
you guys are doing a fairly nice job of trying to get information out. And, anything we can do to get that distributed more widely is at least going to help.
Great, good, okay.
All right.
Hey, Rich.
Yeah.
I was trying to send the group the FAA document that I found describing the North Atlantic Corridor revamp.
Yeah. It showed
It's
up.
not it. Well, that was a link to an NBAA article. That's the National Business Aircraft Association. They're basically fly the corporate jets.
Okay.
They advocate for the corporate jets. The FAA link was a link to a big file.
Okay.
So I tried to send that to the group, but I couldn't get it to, it was too big of a file. But if you're interested, you could just do a search on NEC ACR.
NEC.
So NEC space ACR, it's Northeast Quarter Atlantic Coast Routes. And there's several links, but one's an FAA link, and it was a big document. So it was too much for me to send.
Okay.
It's a 38-page PowerPoint from this past November. So fairly current 38 pages of what's going on with the Northeast airspace revamp.
Okay.
So
All right.
Anyway,
Thank you.
I just wanted to add
Thanks,
that real
Rob.
quick.
Very good.
So again, sorry, a couple more things. So nobody has heard recently from the Courier Times, who was interested, was talking about doing a feature or some kind of a story on all the long-term, resistance from the airport to work with the citizens and the impact on the citizens.
Not me.
All right. Okay. I do have somebody following up on that, but I just wanted to see if and nobody, Holly, no, nobody's reached out to you yet.
No, and not another peep from NBC News or CBS News, whoever we were dealing with before.
Right. Well, we have to continue to feed them information. So I'm trying to work on that. But that would be the next thing to talk about. And I knew he needed to take a break, but I please let me know if he does reach out to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Like most of you got your emails.
Okay, great.
Whoever agreed to it. Okay, thanks. Okay.
All right.
Hey, Rob, could you send me a description? I can't get through on that NEC Atlantic Coast routes.
I was just saying, just do a Google search for NEC ACR.
I just sent the link to everybody for that
Oh,
PDF,
thanks.
the 38 pager. So check
Cool.
the
I
email.
just got the railroads when I did a search. So that's not going to help.
Hey, thanks, John.
Thank you so much, John.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Thanks.
That was quick. Great. Okay, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And our next meeting's August 7th. And, we'll see where the Fonzie stands and how some of these other things have evolved. And nothing wrong with short meetings.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks,
Hey,
everybody.
Rich?
Thanks.